Hello and welcome to CodeVichar. So in today's video, we are going to solve Biweekly Contest 119 with proper intuition, approach and code of the solution. So without any further delays, let's get started. So here's our first question, which is find common elements between two arrays. So in this question, we are given two vectors, nums1 and nums2 of different sizes. They may have different size. Okay. So what we have to find? We have to return a vector of int type of size 2. Okay. Let let us name it answer. So what this vector will be returning? So the index 0 of this vector will store the number of elements in nums1 that also a part of nums2 array. Okay. Like we will check whether 4 is a part of nums2. No, it may not be counted in nums0. Okay. So now we will check 3. Will is 3 a part of nums2 vector? Yes, 3 is a part of num2 vector. So we will increment the count of answer 0. So then we will check 2, whether 2 is a part of nums2. No, yes, it is a part. So we will increment the value at index 0. In the similar way, we will check whether 3 is a part of nums2. Yes, so answer 0 will store 3. And 1 is not a part of nums2, so it will not be counted in answer 0. And in the similar fashion, we will check the number of elements in nums2 that also a part of nums1. So at index 1, we will store it will be initially 0. So we will check, we can see that nums2 also is a part of nums1. Okay, okay, 2 is a part of nums1, 5 is not a part, 2 is a part, 3 is a part. So how many elements in nums2 are a part of nums1 as well? So there is a total of 4. So 4 elements in nums2 is a part of are also a part of nums1. So the answer will return what? It will return 3, 4 for this particular test case. So let's see how we can code here. So we can also see that the constants of this solution are very less. It is less than 100 respectively. So we can use brute force approach, like we can use nested loops and we can check for every element whether it exists in nums2 or not. And in the similar way for nums1 array. So let's move on to the code editor. So the code of this solution is very simple. We are given nums1 and nums2, we have calculated their size, and we have declared our answer vector of size 2 that we will be returning. So for every element in nums1, we are checking whether it exists in nums2 array or not. So we use find method here, and so if it does not exist, it will return nums2.end. So we will check whether it is not returning nums2.end. That means it exists in nums2. So in that case, we will be incrementing the count of answer at index 0. Okay. So in the same way, we will iterate over all the elements in the nums2 and we will check whether they are a part of nums1 or not. If they are a part of nums1, we will increment the count of nums1. So let's run this code. So this code runs well and it is beating 100% of users. So let's move on to the next problem. So in this problem, we are given a string named word and we have to remove all the adjacent almost equal characters from the word string. So what are almost equal elements in a string? So adjacent elements are said to be almost equal if they are equal to each other or they are adjacent to their alphabetical order. Like A and B are almost equal, B and C are almost equal, C and D are almost equal. So in the given string, there may exist several substrings which host all the elements are almost equal. Like we can assume different substrings of different size. Like A is a substring, but it individually contain no almost equal elements, because for to be a almost equal element there should be at least two, because the adjacent elements are said to be almost equal, not a single element. So next example can be AB. So AB can be called as almost equal because they are adjacent to their alphabetical order. The second can be A, B, C. They are also almost equal substring because A and B are adjacent, B and C are adjacent. In the same way, we can consider A, B, and we can again consider A. So it is a substring of size 4. Then let us take one more example, like we can there may exist several possibilities. I'm taking a random one. So A, B, A, and it can be again B. So we have to remove all the adjacent almost equal characters from the string. So here is our string of size 1, 2, 3, 4, and it should be 5. ठीक है. तो हमने क्या लिखा है? We have taken different size of substrings and we will calculate how many operation are needed to apply in a particular size of substring. So let us see in the first one, we can remove there is zero operation needed. In the second one, we can remove any one of them, so one operation is needed. In the third one, we can at maximum remove all the elements, but for the minimum number of operations, we will remove the middle one. Okay, so only one operation is needed. And for the substring of size 4, we should remove the middle element, as well as for this subpart we should remove a. So in this total we have to remove two elements. And for the substring of size 5, we will remove this element and this element for the minimum operations. So how many elements we have removed? We have removed two elements. So can we see the relation between the size of substring and the number of operation needed? Yes. If the size of the substring is m, then the number of operation needed is m by 2. Basically the floor value of m by 2. Like for 5 by 2 is 2.5 and its floor value is 2. So the number of operation needed is 2. So what we are going to do, we are going to calculate different size of different substrings that are almost equal characters. So for every substring of those sizes, we will count the number of operation you need to transform that substring into a normal string. Okay, so let's move on to the code editor to understand this problem very well. So the code of this solution is also very simple. So what have done, we have taken a variable named count, which is initially storing the 1, because we are started iterating over the string from the index 1 without going on to the index 0, because we are checking for every element whether the previous element is satisfying the almost equal condition. So we are checking whether the adjacent elements are almost equal or not. If they are equal, we are incrementing the value of count, because the ongoing substring contain almost equal characters and we have not encountered any condition where this condition will break. So when we will encounter where none of this condition will satisfy, that means the previous substring of almost equal characters is terminated, and in that case the count will store the size of that substring. So what we have learned in the intuition, we have seen that we have a direct relation of the size of substring and the minimum number of operation needed to transform it into a normal string. So that is the floor value of count by 2. So in C or C++, the count by 2 will by default give us a floor value, because they are integer of int type. Okay, so we will increment the answer with count by 2, because there may exist several substrings and we have to transform all those substrings. And at last we are again checking answer count by 2, because there may uh, have a case where the substring is existing till last and the for loop will be breaked and the condition will not be counted in our answer. So after coming out of the loop, we will also apply this condition again. So at this moment, our answer variable will be storing the minimum number of operation to transform the whole string into a normal one. So if we run this solution, let us see. So our solution runs fine with zero runtime and it is waiting 100% of the users. So let's move on to the next problem. So here is our third question, which is length of longest subarray with at most k frequency. So in this question, we are given a vector and an integer k, and we have to find the length of longest good subarray in the nums vector. And an array can be called as good only when if the frequency of each element in the subarray or that array we are considering should be less than or equals to k. So it is very obvious that we will be applying sliding window approach to find the length of longest such good subarray. So let us see how the sliding window approach can be applied in this problem. Let us start taking this example where we have a vector of size which is 8, and let us consider the value of k to be 2. That means we have to find the longest subarray in which every element, the frequency of every element should be less than or equals to 2, which is k. So initially we have taken two pointers, start and end. Initially they are pointing to index 0. Okay. And what this start and end position and pointer representing? They are representing the boundary of substring sub array we are currently in. Okay. So incrementing the value of end means that means we are expanding our boundaries and we are including new elements. And incrementing the value of start means we are collapsing our boundaries and removing some element from the current subarray. So what we will do, we will also take up a frequency map which is storing the frequency of element in the subarray. So the int will be representing, so the key will be representing the num and the value will be representing the frequency of that element in the subarray. So while iterating over the array, we will check, as we know that while will be iterated up to last, which is less than n, and n here is 8. So while including new elements, we will check up their frequency. Okay, the new element will be pointed by end pointer, so the new element will be nums end. And if its frequency, uh, we have frequency map here, no? So if its frequency is less than k, only then we will be able to include it in our array. So if we are including it in our subarray, we will increase its frequency. Okay, so we will increase its frequency and we will increment the value of end variable. And if this condition is not satisfied, if this condition is not satisfied, that means the upcoming element already exists more than or equals to k times in the subarray, then we will start collapsing the subarray until the first condition meet. So in the else part, what we will be doing, we will collapse the subarray, and if we are, that means we will increment the value of start, and if we are incrementing the value of start, we are removing the first element which is initially pointed by start. So if we are excluding the element, we should also decrement its frequency from the current subarray. So the element to be excluded is pointed by start, so we will decrement its frequency and we will increment the value of start. Okay, so in this way we will come up with all the subarray possibilities, and we can see that to count it in our answer, okay, we will calculate the maximum length. Okay, we will calculate the maximum length. And how we can calculate length? How can we calculate length of a particular of the given subarray we are currently in? We can see that the nums and end. Okay, if the start is pointing to initial position, and here we have the the given upcoming subarray, the end will be pointing to the next upcoming character. It is pointing to the upcoming character. Like if 0, 1, 2 and up to 3 it is here, and it is pointing to 4. We have a subarray of size 4 and start will be pointing to the fourth index. So to calculate its length, we will simply we will minus end minus start. So end minus start will give us the length of the current subarray. So in this way we will check up we will check up the longest subarray which is satisfying the given condition, that is it is a good subarray. So let us look onto the code how this solution works. So here is the code of our third problem. We have taken up two variables start and end initially pointing to the index 0, and we have also taken up a frequency map which will give the frequency of the whichever element we have to find. So while we are using a sliding window approach, so we will iterate and over to the n, over to the array, and while including new elements we will check whether the frequency of the upcoming element is less than k. Only then we will include it in our subarray. Okay, so while including, we will increment its frequency in the subarray and increment the value of end. And if this condition not satisfied, that means the upcoming element already exists more than or equals to k times in the current subarray. So in that case, we will start collapsing the subarray. That means we will decrement the first. We will remove the first element from the subarray. So we will decrement its frequency from the map also, and we will increment the value of start. So in this way, we will come up to all the length of subarrays which are good. So in this situation, we are also storing the maximum length of subarrays in the answer variable. Okay, so the length of the current subarray will be given by end minus start. So how it will give us end minus start? Because the end pointer will be pointing to the upcoming position, which is not already included in the subarray, but may be included in further steps. And start will be pointing to the first index, which is included in the subarray. So the end minus start will give us the exact value of the subarray, exact length of the subarray. So in this way, we have applied the sliding window approach. So let us now run the solution. So our solution is accepted and it is beating 100% of the users. So that's all in this part one. So I'll make the second part where I will discuss the question 4 of biweekly contest 119.